We need a second, we're done.
Just,
She's
Watercolor. Don't touch your face.
She's not really there this haunted.
By the way, remind me to sign on my hand. Oh.
The number of times I touched my face. Look at all of us.
I think Laura's trying to impress us
And she's doing a
by
great job
coming to
because she looks like she's
coming to the council meeting.
oh. There's, how many's down there? It looks like 3. Four?
oh my gosh. Oh, she's.
Are you trying to impress us?
Social distancing, Dave. Get 6 feet away from that computer.
We're trying to figure out who else is here.
Oh, you are so easily amused.
Say Laura's not charging us overtime or anything, is she?
Impressed.
Oh, there's Tim.
Oh, Tim.
Hi, Tim. Woohoo. Look at all these people.
This may work.
Yeah.
Gotta be honest, at first blush.
Does it react when people talk?
I think when they speak, maybe when they talk, it goes. Now there's the horse again. Who's doing the horse? Someone's coughing. It sounds like, oh, like Mr. Ed.
Take a point.
Yep. Get him.
Donald Duck.
No, it's Mr. Ed. I'm telling you, it's a horse. Someone's got a horse.
Got a couple more on there too now.
Yeah.
Go stick your face in there.
No. Yeah, because there's a camera
Yeah, we're
shooting
gonna have
right at you.
They need,
You went right up to that thing.
they needed one more.
What was the furniture?
I don't know what he's doing.
Good God. I don't want to know what he's
Yeah, are they all on Zoom or what are they on in there?
I don't think it's Zoom, but
I think Mr. Ed is on with us. Because it sounds like a horse.
Yeah, keeps doing that.
I know. I think it's coughing, but it sounds like a horse. That's a weird sound.
I suppose for sake of the minutes, I could check to see who's up there again.
There we go. That's probably Matt. There.
Ready? Good.
All end user 2 is?
Huh?
Just for sake of the minutes, I could check to see who's up
You
there.
have to
Go
call
ahead,
who
Jeff.
who is.
yeah, we're all here.
Hey! You called in too?
Go ahead, John.
Getting you.
Okay, ready? Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the April 7th, 2020 meeting of the City Council of the City of Cannon Falls to order. It's a little different meeting tonight. We've got a few people here and we've got a few people in remote.
Go ahead, John.
We'll have a roll call.
Yeah, we're all here.
Hey!
Bringold,
Here.
Duncan,
Here.
Gesme,
Go ahead, John.
Getting you.
Okay, ready?
Lundell,
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the April 7th,
Eric Lundell.
2020 meeting.
Oh, I'm here.
Montgomery,
Here.
Mayor Altoff.
Here. Would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
You didn't call him?
Oh, and Mattson.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved?
Mayor, I was wondering if I could add something to the agenda.
Go ahead, Matt.
Stands one nation, under God.
Item C, designated John Birch Lights.
Okay, you're on. Okay, can I have a motion for approval? Okay, again, a motion by Bill and a second by Morris to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. No presentations tonight, so we'll get right into the consent agenda. The consent agenda items may be adopted under one motion as presented, or may be removed for discussion and resolution as council business. For you at home and in the audience here, I'll go through the consent agenda. Item A, just and correct claims for the accounting period ending April 2nd, 2020. Item B, minute meetings for March 17th, 2020 City Council meeting. Item C, Resolution 2476, authorized purchase and acceptance of land for the 3rd Street Bridge project. Item D, approve the 2020 Goodhue County Mutual Aid Fire Services Agreement. Item E, approve a boat trade-in and boat purchase for the fire department. Item F, Resolution 2474, accepting a monetary donation from Cannon Falls Fire Department Relief Association in the amount of $2,500. Item G, approve Welch Mill to use the Riverside Park to launch canoes and kayaks. And item H, authorization to change the bank's signature cards. Is there anything the council would like to bring down? Derek, Steve, Matt? Say another nope. Well, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Mary Jill and a second by Bill to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to council business. Item A is Resolution 2475, designating building as structurally substandard. I'll turn that over to Dave.
Thank you. This is a continuation of the project and the plans to redevelop the former Cannonball property site. And where we are right now in the process is the asbestos abatement evaluation has been done. I should receive that report within the next day or so, so we'll find out what kind of asbestos is in the building. We've issued a permit to allow the canopies to be removed and the underground tanks to be removed, and that will start within the next week for those two efforts. And this resolution tonight is under the tax increment financing statute that allows a city to preserve the opportunity to legally establish a tax increment district in the future in the event you choose to do that as a council. And let me be clear on how that works. For a redevelopment tax increment district, which is like the Artisan Plaza district, where we had an existing building that was structurally substandard under the law. Doesn't mean it has to be falling down, but it has certain code compliance violations in the building to the degree that it would allow it to be considered structurally substandard under state law. If we have a building like that, we can create a tax increment district for redevelopment purposes. And the value of a redevelopment tax increment district, it allows up to a 25-year term. So it's the most liberal of the tax increment district authorizations that the city has available to them. But you got to have a bad building, right? We have a bad building at the Cannonball, believe me, it's really bad. There's no question that that building would qualify as structurally substandard under state law, but the issue is the building is proposed to be demolished before such time as a tax increment district may be created. So we want to preserve the opportunity to use that bad building, the structurally substandard building, as it exists today, to pre-qualify that as a structurally substandard building so that within the next 3 years, if tax increment financing is going to be part of the financial program to redevelop that property, to bring a building or buildings back onto that site, the city council would be able to establish a tax increment plan for the district at that time without a building, because the building will have been removed. So it's a way to kind of preserve the option to the city. We've talked about this before. I think it's a good idea to do that, to give us that option in the future, because we don't know what's going to develop there. We don't know what our final costs will be to clean up the environmental conditions on that site and demolish that building. So it's just another tool that will allow us some flexibility in the future if it's needed. And if it is, a tax increment plan would come before the city council at that time. So it's keeping your options open pretty much is what it's about.
Why can't they just say with a building that's been demolished within the last 36 months? I'm sorry, that was a rhetorical.
You need to talk to your state
I
legislator.
know, that's stupid.
Any questions of the council?
Any questions at home? Well, hearing none, of a motion to approve Resolution 2475 designating building referring to the Cannonball as structurally substandard. Morris?
I'll second.
Motion by Morris and a second by Mary Jill to approve Resolution 2475. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Resolution passes. Okay, item B, approving development agreement for Carson Rentals LLC, which is the TIF district number 2-8. Dave?
Thank you. The city council previously held a public hearing and approved a tax increment financing plan related to the Karstensen Trucking Project. With the adoption of that plan, the builder developers were allowed access to the site, and if you've been out there recently, you can see that there's been a lot of movement, a lot of activity on that site. So the tax increment plan's been approved, and you may recall in that tax increment plan that there was a finance plan, and we discussed a development note in that plan whereby the new taxes that are created as a result of the construction of a 15,000 square foot commercial building would be captured for a 9-year period and pay off a development note. The development note is held by, in this case, Matt Karstensen, the owner of the property. And in that plan, we authorized in the plan approximately $113,000 or $114,000 of present value, principal value, that we would incorporate into a development note and pay, with the approval of this development agreement, would pay Matt Karstensen over a 9-year period based on the tax increments paid by his development. We would use that to retire the $113,000 or $114,000 principal amount of the note plus 5% interest. So the cash flow that we had provided to you at the time of the public hearing in the tax increment plan now is rolled over, if you will, into a development note. And if the council approves a development note and the contract, there would be an agreement between the city of Cannon Falls and Matt Karstensen in this case, where if the building's built, the terms of the development agreement are followed, the values created on that site, he pays his taxes for a 9-year period, that each year those taxes would be paid by Matt Karstensen, received by Goodhue County, sent to the city of Cannon Falls, and then twice a year there'd be a payment back to Matt Karstensen under that development note. When the total principal amount is paid, the note is done. If the 9 years goes by and the $113,000 or $114,000 is not paid off, there's no obligation in the development contract for the city to make supplemental revenues available. Only the tax increments are used to repay this note. So if the building doesn't happen, the building doesn't create the kind of value that generates sufficient revenues to pay off the note, that's fine. The city has no legal obligation under the development contract to make up that difference. So it's kind of the final step, if you will, in the tax income and financing planning process. We develop the plan, the council approves a plan, we have a development agreement, and in this case, a development note that represents to the developer what they'll get in return financially in return for them building a building on that site.
Okay, any questions? Matt, Derek, Steve, any questions? Hearing none, take a motion to approve the development agreement for Carson Reynolds LLC, TIF District Number 2-8.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Bill and second by Morris to approve the development agreement for Carson Reynolds LLC. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We added item C, which is John Birch Lights. Matt, what, you're on. Matt?
Yep, so though, I'm sure you're all aware, what's going on, the lights across Minnesota, all these high schools are, lighting up their fields to honor classes of 2020, all the things that they're missing out on this spring. So it was proposed, by Bucky Lindo. He reached out to me a couple days ago and said if I could bring this up. It was very kind of him to reach out and want council approval. He would like to volunteer his time to light the lights at John Birch Park Wednesday nights at 8:20 p.m., which military time would be 2020, and leave them lit for 20 minutes and 20 seconds. And we encourage people to continue practicing social distancing and honoring the stay-at-home order. However, going out for walks or driving by or parking there, but being aware of keeping their distance from others, just to honor those seniors and also show a sign of unity that our community, John Birch Park is very symbolic, and those lights can be seen from all across town, especially driving right by. So it's very kind of Bucky to reach out and then ask for council approval. So I'd like to make a motion to approve lighting up John Birch.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
There's been a motion by Matt and a second by Mary Jill to turn on the lights at John Birch Park on Wednesday nights at 8:20 for 20 minutes.
Is it like through May, Matt? How many weeks is that for? Do you know?
I don't care.
I'm wondering if you know. He doesn't-
Just
he didn't
can't
hear me.
He didn't question it, Mary Jo.
He didn't hear me.
Sorry if you guys are, if you have a question, I'm having a hard time
Can you-
hearing some people there in the council chambers.
Well, Matt, is this going to run through a certain time period, say May, or
Do we know how many weeks?
do we know how many weeks?
We'll see how long, it was suggested that this go as long as the stay-at-home order is in place
Okay,
or until school comes back.
okay.
And I had talked to the mayor, once a week for 20 minutes. I think that, the city can handle that.
That wasn't my question. I just wanted to know if you knew how long. That's all.
Well, I think it's a good idea. By 20 minutes, you're honoring the 2020 graduates too.
Right,
It's on
right.
me, another challenge.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Okay, motion was motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Don't hear it carried. So at 8:20 on Wednesday nights, we'll turn the lights on for 20 minutes. Okay. Council and committee reports. Kyle Paulson isn't going to be here tonight. Finance Committee. Somebody want to tell us about the Finance Committee meeting?
Well, we held a finance committee meeting on March 26th. We held a finance committee on March 26th. We appointed Chairperson Mary Jo Bringold. Jean from Abdul Eakin Myers put together a report of finances that we should look at and some different recommendations. We also talked about city staffing and operations as this goes forward, and among other things, we also talked about securing two parcels of land that we just got done discussing, and other things. And it adjourned at 4:45.
Okay. It was an interesting meeting. They come up with some interesting ideas, use some more software and make a lot of things more efficient around City Hall. It was a good meeting.
It was.
Okay, Library Board. Okay.
The library board met on March 27th via Zoom. And the decision was made because Nicole feels that there's plenty of work for people to do both on-site and at home, that they would continue to do that. There is going to be another meeting this Friday to reevaluate that and decide whether or not what would happen going forward. Things are changing so quickly that we just don't know. But she also said she's trying to be realistic about how much work there is to do. But there is a lot of behind-the-scenes work to do at a library. But the question is how much of it needs to be done right now. So that's a decision on Friday.
Well, Mary Jill and I will meet with the library board Friday afternoon, but I'm looking for a little input from the council on what you think should happen there.
Well,
Now, I've heard now that Nicole has furloughed a few of her employees. I guess we'll find out Friday what that is, but like I was telling her, we let the DMV gals go. We've got to be fair to everybody around here.
yeah, I think the library should, other than Nicole, probably shut down completely.
But I'm looking for a recommendation to give to the library board on Friday. That's what I'm looking for from the council.
I agree.
Matt, Derek, Steve, you got any input on that?
How did we respond to the licensed people? Are they laid off or are they now?
DMV are furloughed?
No,
The DMV.
The DMV people, they've applied for unemployment.
Yeah, but they were furloughed and then they applied for they were furloughed and then applied for unemployment.
I'm sorry, the audio is pretty choppy here, but I've got to share. If the library staff has work to do and can work from home, I'd be in favor of that. I think that comparing them to the DMV employees is a little dangerous because DMV obviously is required that they're face-to-face with the general public. I think that the library, there's if people can prove that they have office work to do and that they can be busy and keep working from home, I would support.
What do you think, Jerry?
I'm not gonna lie, I can barely hear anything you guys are saying. I don't know if it's my computer or your guys. if this is the way we're gonna have meetings from now on, it's definitely not gonna work for me, because I literally can't hear anything anyone's saying, except for Matt for some reason. And my screen keeps jumping around from people to different things, so. That is all.
What do you think, Steve?
You can hear me?
Let me just set it right there.
Well, I mean, they could justify.
They've been talking about like building up their summer and all that, and that's all wonderful. But, you know, I'd love to have Barnes and Noble open too, but they're not. And I'd love to, you know, we don't get everything we want just because it's there. There's lots of work to be done in a lot of places. It just isn't getting done.
Right.
Well, I got the impression they were getting done with all that, they got the summer programs
They've got
together.
a lot of stuff apparently they can still do, but I just don't think it's justifiable.
Well, and because we're dealing with the taxpayer dollar here, it isn't so-and-so's library, personal library, so we have to be a little more careful. I might disagree with Matt on being dangerous comparing them to the DMV, because it's not the library's fault that they have to be closed, it's not the DMV's, but
Beyond everyone's control.
it's beyond all control, and we're having our DMV people go on unemployment. I think our library people, except Nicole.
Wow.
What do you think, Morris? Shut it down?
Well, at least that should be our recommendation. And when Mary Jill and John, you go on Friday, give them our viewpoint.
It's still the board's decision what they do.
Well, what do you mean it's the board's
They're
decision?
that much.
It's not, it's the council.
Well,
No, it's the
we can
council.
recommend.
No, we say what it is.
We can only.
Didn't you say, Neil, that there are certain things we can and cannot tell them to do?
Yeah, the board is, and if you look at the structure of the board, it's not all residents of the
Right.
city.
Right.
So all library boards are autonomous to city councils. They're a complete different group.
Because we'd have to go to Cannon Township.
Yeah, it's
County.
it's interesting, the structure of library boards. What we do is fund them.
Right.
We approve their budgets, fund them. And then, of course, there's always the minimum funding that you get from the Department of Education. And so, yeah, the library board actually does have to make that call.
Well, just like last year though, okay, with the snow. What, I mean, they can make, yeah, see, that's not right.
Right, and we did discuss this, Morris, at the Finance Committee meeting a little bit, and that's what Neil made us aware of what we can and can't do. So we're somewhat limited. I would hate to have to punish the library by lowering their budget in the future and all that sort of stuff, but I'd like to see them cooperate to the extent so they operate in the same manner that we as a council operate.
Right.
So we're not having different rules for different areas.
I also think it's important, and I brought this out at the last library board meeting too, that we really have to guard against creating an us versus them mentality. And even if the library is miles away, different from the DMV, that's not what people will think. They will think it's the same thing. All they do is sit there and check out books, even if that's not true. Because all they think the DMV people do is renew your driver's license, and that isn't all they do. So we've got to be, we can't always treat people equally, but we can treat them fairly. So that's what I would ask the library board to consider. That would be my recommendation.
Yep, I agree.
Well,
Take it and see.
See what happens.
yeah. Why don't we leave it? Mary Jill and I will be at their library board meeting Friday afternoon, and then we'll talk to Nicole and see what she comes up with. Everybody in agreement on that?
Yeah.
I heard that. Okay, that's what we'll do. Mary Jill and I'll talk to them on Friday. Okay, Joint Powers Board, Trail Board?
It did not meet on the 24th. They canceled the meeting, so our next meeting is April 28th, I believe.
Okay, round the horn. Mike, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll give you just an update on what's going on with the fire department, just with the COVID-19 stuff. Like any department that's dealing with public safety and healthcare and stuff like that, there are challenges right now. Probably the biggest challenge is the responders themselves not wanting to get sick and bring that home. I mean, it's kind of a mental challenge, I think, more than it is a challenge out there dealing with calls. I mean, we deal with sick people 365 days a year. It's just what we know how to do. But we are taking some more precautions right now with hand sanitizing, masks that we're wearing, a decon station that we've got set up at the fire station for police, ambulance, and fire for when we get done with calls where we have to deal with a sick person. So we've put a few things into play. We do have a little shortage on masks that I believe we've never really had to beef up our supply for something like this, but that's kind of a national thing right now. So we're not really out of line with most fire departments around the country. So I've had to fill out a few different surveys on where we're at with our PPE needs. I just got some in today, hoping to get another wave of stuff coming in the next week or two. That should help us out quite a bit. I'll have to work with Michelle a little bit on, sounds like they approved today or are in the process of approving first responders and being covered under workers' comp. So I don't know if that applies to our volunteers. I assume it will. The only thing that we're going to run into questions is if I have a volunteer firefighter who hasn't been on a call for a month, but now they get it, is that still going to be a workers' comp deal or not? I would imagine there might be some gray area for the volunteer fire departments versus the full-time firefighters. So I'll work with Michelle and Neil on that, and we'll see where we end up with that. But that's the only question I've got here once that kind of gets approved, is where that is in the fine line. Other than that, our limiting factor is just masks. So we're staging on a lot of stuff that we would normally run in on right now just to save on the PPE. We're kind of throwing the brunt at Tim's EMS staff right now. They're doing a really good job of either getting the patients to come out and meet them in the ambulance if we can. There's a little different, slower approach that we do right now, kind of treating them more like a hazmat call than a medical, unfortunately. But we got to do what we got to do to keep everybody safe through this. So it's been interesting, been kind of a trying time for it, but I think everybody's in pretty good spirits and doing pretty good with it. So right now, I think we're good as long as this doesn't drag on for months and months, and we'll hold our own with PPE and be able to keep providing our service. So that's kind of where we're at.
Tim.
Yeah. Tim, are you out there? Do you have anything? Tim Milko?
Do you have anything? Yeah. So Sula and I have been quite busy attending several webinars and meetings throughout the state of Minnesota virtually and getting updated. We've been working really hard with our state and local and federal partners to get PPE. We were fortunate enough, we reached out to some people in the ag world, and they were able to donate some N95 masks that they had for us, so we're very fortunate on that too. Northfield Hospital has been really being an advocate for us and helping partner with us and getting like hand sanitizer and other resources that are very short. So my staff, we've been meeting quite a bit. Dr. Loudon with Mayo has had several phone-in conversations where our EMS staff can call and ask him questions directly, and he'll answer that. And for the most part, times are changing. We are still responding. We have systems in place. Treat those patients. It looks a little different now than it did 6 months ago, just because we don't know who has it, and we're just assuming everybody does. And we have systems in place right now to try to keep our staff as safe as they possibly can, and we are doing the best we can.
Good. Help for the fire department in securing us our hand sanitizer and setting things up at the station. Him and Sula have been great down there, so thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Dave?
No, thank you.
Nothing? Neil? Nothing? Bill?
Well, I guess the big item here for us is decide how to go on these meetings. It sounds like for Derek and Matt and Steve, it's tough for them to hear or whatever. My original thought was if you wanted to be here in person, great. If you felt more comfortable via phone or electronics, do that too. I think it should be an individual decision. According to state statute, Neil has to be here for the meetings, whether it's remote or we're here. I personally would prefer to be here. Electronics are not my forte, so I don't want to. I can send texts and send emails, but that's about the extent of my skill level. So,
Well, you think at least for the next meeting that we leave it an option? You can come here or be on the remote?
and I hope maybe, and I know Mike's doing a very good job back there. Maybe we can come up with something that works slightly better. I don't know, but
Yeah. Okay.
But outside of that, I really have nothing else other than everybody just stay healthy. Do follow the social distancing requests. And hopefully we will get through this in the next couple months. And that's it.
Okay, so until further notice, our next meetings will, at least our next meeting will be, you can come or be online, well, unless we decide something different at the next meeting. Okay? Morris?
I have nothing.
Mary Jill? I got a few things. I got it. Oh, yeah. Matt, Derek, Mike, or Steve, you got anything?
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I fell asleep when Bill was talking.
Matt, came over. It's Steve, Andy.
Rat.
Matt, you got anything? Got anything? Eric? Still in? Still in? Well, if they come back.
I just got an update on the Historical Society. Remember we bought the building next to the Historical Society last year, year before? And I'm glad Steve Dablo's kind of in charge of that. He's gotten some money for us, and now he's got $10,000 coming this way very shortly. And he had some other donations in line, so we were gonna try to get at least 100,000 of that paid off by the end of the year, but now with the pandemic, I don't know, it's not gonna take a little longer than that, but he's working on it. He's a good guy for that.
People get nervous real quick.
Yeah. So I'm glad he's in charge of that. We mentioned the library, and we'll talk to them. We'll talk to them Friday afternoon. Mary Jill and I are going to that meeting and see what we can come up with there. I just wanted to mention Sustain. I got a couple calls today. It was bad out there. I think maybe we should probably have Blaze come to one of our next meetings, and I haven't heard anything bad for a while, maybe once or twice last fall, but today it was bad.
Blaze and I did communicate, and there was an equipment failure today, which they attribute to be part of the reason. So I had just the one complaint today, so I did communicate with Blaze, and that's the response I got back. So we think it hopefully is an isolated incident, and they'll be back to more usual operations as a result of the fix today.
I know for a fact they've spent a lot of money trying to correct the problem. They've put thousands of dollars into that, but maybe it was just a glitch today, but we'll see what happens, I guess. And if it's something down the road, we'll have Blaze come and talk to us, I guess. Okay, like we mentioned, until further notice, the meetings will be here or online, whatever the council people prefer, at least for the next meeting. Yeah, I want to thank Mike Gesme for getting this remote together tonight. A lot of work he put into this, so. Okay, let's move on to public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the record and kindly limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comments must be respectful, pertinent to city business, and adhere to applicable data privacy rules. The city council will not take action on any issue raised by the public, but we may choose to schedule consideration of the item on a future agenda. Open public input.
Babel Gorman, Michael Avenue, Cannon Falls, Minnesota. I really don't have anything new. It's kind of the same old thing. As some of you know, I came home, had a little surgery, and I flew back to Arizona March 2nd. I turned on the TV down there and I got to see all this crap going on, and what I watched was the president make a state of an emergency. So did the governor, so did the county, and so did you, Mr. Mayor. What I didn't see was our emergency management director. Wasn't even here, and you had a workshop discussing what you were going to do as a community. Not present. He's not present tonight. I heard from the ambulance director, I heard from the fire chief, but not from the emergency management director or the police chief. Haven't seen him, and from what I know, nobody else has either. Seems a little odd to me. I got here April 2nd, 8 o'clock in the evening. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I called City Hall. I wanted to talk to Mr. Neil Jensen, and I wanted to meet him. Within an hour or so, he called me. We had a chat, came right out front here and met, just like that. Now, how can I, that have been gone for 5 months, and I got nothing to do with this place, and he's not my boss, I can meet him within minutes. And I discussed with him a few little details, and it's very simple, and he seems like a likable Joe, and I think you're lucky to have him. But where's the emergency management director? And shouldn't he be front and center and directing traffic? And if he's not available, then why is he on the front page of the paper discussing it with little Mikey Dalton? Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Public input. Public input. Third and final call, public input. Okay, we'll close the public input part of the meeting. Before we close, I just want to say, kind of tough times are going through through now. Keep your distancing, stay safe out there. And as I've said at every meeting, support your local businesses. This is gonna be tough on these guys. Just for your information, there was a memo out today, if you didn't have anything on the agenda, it went to the heads of the departments, they didn't have to show up tonight, so just so you know that. Okay, anything else from the council? Then I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Bill and a second by Mary Jill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.